Welcome to the video today, guys. We're going to go over something that there's massive information on, and I did a lot of research to get this to be simplified. So you can take the ball and run with it, but these are some basic concepts in weight loss and balancing hormones, right? A lot of talk on hormones, a lot of interrupters, a lot of things going on out there that are disrupting hormones and causing people to have, numerous problems. So let's get started by looking at a couple of basic things we can do. And at the end of this video, I want to share some hacks with you on to accelerate the process. But if we start out, look at something that everyone's working with is stress. Over talked about maybe, but we're going to simplify that. There's chronic and acute stress. Now, acute stress we're kind of designed for, big, scary, sudden things. Actually, our bodies are pretty well equipped for that. It's the chronic stress, finances, relationships, things that go on for long periods of time that really kind of break us down. So we want to look at the chronic stress and how to deal with that as best we can. Now, when you're under stress, especially chronic stress, we release cortisol. You may have heard of that hormone, and that hormone will make you store fat. So we want to avoid that release because it's also related to the release of insulin. And if you're watching our last video about belly fat, you'll see that insulin spikes are to be avoided. You want your blood sugar to stay level, and you want your insulin levels to stay level. The latest research right now, they're looking at insulin levels as much as they're looking at blood sugar levels. Like everybody goes and has their blood sugar done on basic blood work, and now they're going to start incorporating, hopefully, insulin levels because of the insulin resistance and metabolic disease and the effects that had in general. So when we look at insulin, we want to make sure that we're keeping it even. It starts with good emotional maintenance, I call, right? So we're going to sleep properly, good nutrition, proper exercise. I know you know that. But let's look at the concept that's out there right now. We call it mindfulness. Mindfulness is something that when we get into relaxation, meditation, prayer, a state of blissfulness, the best way to approach that for me is to focus on the now. We can get into breathing exercises and all the other aspects of it. But when you focus on the actual moment that you're present in, being in the present moment, present time consciousness, this is when the body is really doing its best because it's not thinking about the past and it's not thinking about the future. The past and the future are very distorted. I don't find them to, most people can't remember the past accurately and they can't predict the future accurately. And with all that inaccuracies, there's a lot of tension in those moments, a lot of worry, maybe some regret from the past. But if you focus on right now, you're going to be able to make the future better because 100% of you is here achieving at a high level because all of you is here. You're not distracted. You ever have a conversation with someone they're thinking about the past or the next thing? They're just not attentive. And that kind of lack of attention, not just with another individual you're talking to, but also just what you want to accomplish in your goals and in your daily routine can also be thrown off in a pretty rough way. So we basically want to make those changes. And using breath work, stretching out the body, is also another way of tapping into the tension that we hold in our frames. Think of how great you feel after exercise. Well, if you're going to just breathe deeply and stretch the body, you're also going to release that tension. When the tension comes out of your body, it also comes out of your mind to some degree, okay? Next one, sleep. We all know sleep is valuable. I go on and on about it. But realize when you sleep, can you sleep and burn calories? How does that work? Well, if you look at when we sleep, we repair ourselves. And then the next day, we have the energy to burn the calories that we've ingested. So if you're walking around and you're moving faster, quicker, your brain's working harder because you're refreshed from a good night's sleep, you're going to actually burn more calories in that day than you would if you were exhausted. Think of somebody slumped over, barely talking because they're tired. Well, you're not going to burn calories that way. You're also not going to achieve much in life because you're exhausted all the time. So make sure you're getting sleep. And I always preach going to bed at 9, getting up at 5. And I know that's a little insane, but the best you can do with that is going to balance your hormones and it's going to help you lose weight. So how simple is that? Running up a hill, you'll lose weight too. But what's easier, going to bed a little bit earlier or running up a hill, right? So I would choose both personally, but do what you can. Now, one of the ways, like a lot of people have trouble getting to sleep, one of the things is to get the blue light out of your eyes. When you're looking at screens, you're getting a stimulation to your pineal gland that can keep you awake because your body thinks it's daytime. There's a gland inside your brain that actually senses that and thinks it's daytime. That's why we want to make sure we're seeing darker light. So light off the book of a page of a book, an actual book can actually won't stimulate you as much, and it'll help you sleep deeper and get to bed a little bit quicker. Exercise, massive one, right? But if we want to know what the ultimate exercise is for balancing hormones and losing weight, and it's also very, very efficient time-wise, it's called HIIT training, high intensity interval training. And what that is able to do is you create this moment where your body's under a lot of pressure and stress, really acute stress, right? We said that wasn't that bad. So 30 seconds, very bold, very brisk, and then 90 seconds of rest done 8 times. And I know everybody can't do that, but you do your best. If you can do that, that's what you're going to do. Okay, so a HIIT training interval. The next is yoga and Pilates. These are things, if you can't do the HIIT training, the next thing you would move to is something that's more relaxing, but it's also going to utilize muscle tension. It's going to create symmetry and bring that tension out of your body. And we always want to make sure that we're moving, basically. Like we know the people that live long, healthy lives, they rarely sit still for 20 minutes. They're moving their bodies, they're burning calories. The 10,000 steps a day is a decent guide. I would shoot for more than that if you can, but 10,000 steps, and make those steps brisk, okay? So lastly, nutrition. Now with nutrition, we all know that sugar is bad. I won't go on about that. So we're going to try to bring the refined white sugars out of your diet, keep the carbohydrates low. I believe in that. But secondly, we want to avoid what we call the endocrine disruptors. Now, these are plastics that are found in food preparation. We know the ocean has a lot of microplastics in it. It's getting into the fish. We want to avoid that as much as we can. And also, I want you to look at your cosmetics and your sunscreen, for example, because things you're putting on your skin are made oftentimes by pharmaceutical companies, and they have a lot of chemicals, agents that maybe aren't researched that well, or we don't know what the effects are over 20 years, or the effects are subtle, so we're not exactly sure what they are, but they're starting to come to fruition now that that's really affecting your hormones. So there's a lot of natural cosmetic companies, they work really well. And of course, the rule is to eat real food and eat single ingredient food. I've seen some research recently where they took a tribe of people that eat basically rice and chocolate and potatoes and a lot of actually somewhat high carbohydrate foods, and they have hardly any heart disease at all. So they're starting to look at, well, maybe it's the amount of processed foods and the ingredients in those processed foods that are making a mess of people's bodies. Because when you load the body with multiple chemicals, it doesn't know what it should burn, how it should utilize that, and it can decide to just start storing things as fat. So a lot of chemicals end up getting stored as fat. So we're going to eat real food, which is also single ingredient food like green beans, meat, right? Things that are just by themselves, they haven't been messed with, preserved, altered, spiced too much. Spicing is also an issue. We can get into that at some point. But let's look at some of the foods. So, the top foods are ones that are high in protein, eggs, meat, as well as red beets. Those are they have nitric oxide, which is really helpful. Cruciferous vegetables, and fantastic, all kinds of amazing chemistry in those. Avocados, and the fatty fish like salmon, as well as almonds. Many of the nuts are good. Peanuts would be the least good nut. All the rest of the nuts are pretty good. So let's look at the hacks like I promised you in the beginning of this video. Now, if we're gonna manage stress, you can do all the stuff I said, and we can do a few things that kind of accelerate the process. Magnesium glycinate, that's a magnesium that'll really put you to sleep, so it'll get you relaxed. So 500 milligrams before bed. The herb ashwagandha, 500 milligrams also before bed. And L-theanine, about 200 milligrams before bed. Those are both stress reducing. Now, for sleep itself, we're gonna also use magnesium glycinate at 500 milligrams before bed. Now we're gonna use glycine at 1,000 milligrams before bed. Now that's an amino acid that is non-essential, meaning your body makes it, but when we add a little bit more, the body does really good. And inositol, so that's 1,000 milligrams of inositol 2 times per day. So 1 in the morning, another 1,000 before bed. Now nutrition, we talked about the foods just a second ago. Now we're gonna add a couple more things. The vitamin D3 at 1,000, or 10,000, 10,000 vitamin D3, very, very good. Balance off the body. It's got literally a million reactions that are all positive. Now for women, we want flax seeds, 2 tablespoons per day. We do not want men to use flax seeds. That's gonna be more of a hormonal stimulant for women. For men, turns out pomegranates, 3 pomegranates a week can make a really big difference in your hormones. The red beet we mentioned earlier, also very valuable for testosterone, nitric oxide, as well as you want to make sure that men stay away from soy products. Soy lecithin, you'll see it in a lot of processed foods. Also, some people eat tofu. It's a form of soy. Fermented tofu is a little better, but for for most men, you want to stay away from soy completely because it has a lot of estrogen physiology that it stimulates. Okay, so that's today's video. Give us a thumbs up, share this video with people you know that are struggling with their weight, dealing with hormonal issues, and see how they do. Thanks.